Hey everybody, this is Skinnyboy, and I am finally back with another Malifaux battle report. Before we get started though, I would like to give a quick shout out to @Gualtatron, hopefully I'm saying that right, on Twitter for basically asking for another battle report and getting me out of my recording slump. So on with the show. Today's report will see my 10 Thunders take on some Arcanists. Here is a shot of the terrain. We're playing the forests as dense, blocking, and severe. We've got some height 1 fences down at the bottom of the screen there, and they're going to be height 1 soft cover, which are climbable. And then pretty much everything else is hard cover around height 4, height 5, height 6 for the top of the church there as well. Here is a view from my side of the table, and you can see that underneath the gallows there's actually a lot of space, and we decided to play it that wasn't line of sight blocking. So you can see, as long as you can see models through that, then they don't count for being blocked. Of course, if you're up against the gallows, it does count as hard cover. So today we are going to be playing some standard deployment. The strategy is interference, and the schemes we have are convict labor, hunting party, detonate the charges, show of force, and public demonstration. So looking at that straight off the bat, I'm not a fan of show of force in combination with interference, because obviously the models in the center won't count towards interference if they're counting for show of force. It can be a nice kind of a bluff where you're in there and then your opponent doesn't want to go in there to contest your show of force. Because then they'd have to give up their interference, but I don't think that's the route that I'm going to go. Convict labor on a standard deployment, I'm not a massive fan of. It's certainly doable, and some crews can do it really, really well, but I was in the mood for something a little bit more aggressive and more hitty. And you'll see that with my crew. So I went with Misaki, who's got Stalking Bacento, Misdirection, and Recall Training. Then going up against Arcanists, I figure my main man Kang definitely can't go wrong, and he's going to throw out his positives to attack and damage against constructs. So hopefully my opponent will bring plenty of those. He's also a henchman, so I can use him for hunting party if needs be. I put in 2 Katanaka snipers because looking at the board, it seems like the whole thing is pretty much a killing field for them. I mean, sure, there's, plenty of hard cover and soft cover around the place, but just having line of sight and being able to hit with min damage 2 or 3 with a critical strike means that it's a pretty good shot at having those snipers in there, particularly if they're in Kang's aura, because then they don't really care about hard cover or soft cover, and then with their focus, they still will be able to get at least a straight flip on the damage. With Misaki, I typically take Shang. I think he's a great buy for the heals, for the activation, and particularly for the rush of magic. Misaki likes her cards. I took a Samurai with the favor of Jigoku, so that's the one where he doesn't take damage during his activation. Thinking behind that is he's an enforcer. I've already got 2 strong shooting elements, so having another ranged element we'll just kind of cap that off. He can benefit from Kang's aura as well, and he can be great for hunting party. Also, he's 6 wounds with armor 2 is nothing to sniff at. Then I put in a couple of other minions. I've got the Wastrel. I find for 4 stones she's a pretty good buy. She's got a decent enough shooting attack, and with her swagger rule, she can stay up for longer than you think a 4-stone model could. So she might run off and do some schemes or something like that. And then there is the Shadow Effigy. So he's great because he can give Misaki the Blend into Shadows condition, which keeps her alive for a little bit longer when she goes running off trying to kill stuff. He's also a minion, and his Remember the Mission ability is great for things like Detonate the Charges, because it allows you to just place a scheme marker, ignoring the conditions for interacting. So I think I built a crew here that can very happily do hunting party, detonate the charges, or public demonstration. It all really depends on what my opponent's crew is going to be. So taking a look at that, he's gone with Ramos as his master. And on Ramos, he's got electric summoning, field contractor, field generator, and bleeding edge tech. He's got a fistful of stones with him as well. He's got the captain with the warding runes. He's got 3 Oxfordian mages with the Nemesis ward, the Blood ward, and the Doom ward. He has Joss also with warding runes, and then he's got the Essence of Power. So looking at that crew, what I think is going to happen is he is going to use Ramos to summon Electrical Creation. He's going to kill it, and he's just going to start summoning spiders off of that. And then he's going to kind of move everything else up the board in a big ball where they're supporting each other. Ramos is giving out positive flips to defense duels. The Oxfordian mages are buffing the captain and Joss. The Essence of Power is an interesting choice. It can be used to buff all the casting coming off the Oxfordian mages, and then it makes Ramos's summoning just a little bit easier to get off as well. So it's definitely an interesting crew build. So looking at that, I decide I probably don't actually... Public Demonstration is not a bad choice because there are so many Enforcers, Henchmen, and Masters in his crew, but they are probably going to stay back and just let the spiders come at me. So to get Public Demonstration, I would also need to use one of my snipers. So that kind of goes out the window. So I stick with Hunting Party because I think there's going to be lots of little minions running around, and then I can use the snipers to ping off some wounds and then just shoot them with the Samurai to pick up the points, or charge them with Kang, whichever is easier. And and then the same kind of logic applies to Detonate the Charges. With lots of little minions running around, it shouldn't be too hard to get 3 of them within a couple of scheme markers. So that's the plan. Looking at his crew, trying to guess what he's trying to do. Definitely he's going to try and beat me on interference. Hunting Party is certainly a viable option. He could try Public Demonstration. No, he can't try Public Demonstration because he doesn't start actually with any minions, so that's out. Detonate the Charges is definitely an option. Show of Force could be doable, but he's only got 1 upgrade each on the Captain and Joss, so unlikely, I would think. So he could go for Convict Labor and could go for Detonate the Charges is what I would take if I were him. So I lost the flip and had to set up first, and because I'm a lazy gamer, I decided to stay on the side of the table that I was already on. So deployment looked a little bit like that. The idea behind this was that Kang was just going to hang out there and hold down the fort with the 2 Katanaka snipers, who are both within 6 inches of him. I wasn't sure which way of the gallows that he was going to swing, or if he would come down both. The snipers have a really good position to see everything. I kept the Samurai in the center so that he can move either left or right of that gallows and still be within range to start killing spiders. And then I just kind of shoved everything else over in this corner, thinking that he might swing over to the opposite corner, where he can either try and hide behind forests, in which case he's not moving around very much, or just come out into the open. But he decided to deploy almost directly opposite me, in between the yellow building, the outhouse, and the church there. So like I thought, he tried to keep everything in a little bubble, so they're all benefiting from each other's auras and things like that. And that's just an overview shot of the setup. So turn 1 looks a little bit like that. We'll go through my movement first. Because he deployed kind of on the right-hand side of the gallows, and I reckon he's going to come towards me that ways, I shoved the Samurai over that way so he could start getting nice clear lines of sight. Kang just moved up, but still keeping everybody within 6 inches. Misaki runs over towards the gallows and does her 0 action to stalk Joss. The one really big thing that happened this turn was I had a pretty decent hand to start off with. It included a 13 of Rams and a red Joker. So with that in mind, my snipers become a very, very potent threat. So I start trying to take apart his giant death ball moving down towards me. So one sniper focuses, takes aim, takes a shot at an Oxfordian mage and pops him right between the eyes. So that guy's just straight up gone. I was able to do just 6 wounds to him so that he was able to, even with his shield, it was enough to kill him. He did, however, take the red joker and the 13 to get rid of it. I had to cheat in the red joker so that I could get a straight flip, so that I could cheat in the severe damage for 6 with the critical strike. And then with the other sniper, I just kind of decided that, you know, out of everything else that's there, I'll start plinking away at the essence of power so that he couldn't boost the casting of all his guys. So that's what I did. On his side of things, he moved up slightly, as you can see there. Not a ton of stuff going on. Ramos went ahead and summoned an electrical creation, which moved in between where Joss is standing now, actually, between that church, between the window and the door of the church. And Joss went and shot it, and then moved up, as you can see there. So he dropped 2 scrap markers. And then after all of the shooting that I was able to put down on him, he got a little worried, threw up the captain, and then used him to drop those 2 wind wall markers. But they're not actually doing anything because they are not considered dense. They can grant him soft cover, but I'm getting so many positives from inbuilt positives from my samurai, my wastrel, my snipers, that soft cover doesn't really matter, and it's not blocking line of sight, so I'll keep shooting away. That little black token there is just denoting the center of the board, so you want to try and stay out of 6 inches of that if you would like to count for interference, or within 6 inches if you want show of force. So he's a little rattled after that, and this is just another shot at the end of turn 1 / beginning of turn 2 of my side of the field. So going into turn 2 then, we'll start with the Ramos player. He goes ahead and activates his Essence of Power, boosts everybody's casting, and then he is only able to summon 2 spiders though. He does not have enough tomes to get the 3rd spider. The 2nd spider is not long for this world, and it originally popped up where that red circle is there. Oxfordian mages are kind of hanging out where you see them. They're activating. They're trying to, you know, put the hurt on my crew a little bit, but they don't really do a ton. During my activation, I'm able to put down one of those spiders with the samurai, so that will count for a hunting party for me. Then with all of my other shooting, I put it into that 1 Oxfordian mage that was hanging out by the gallows there. I took 2 snipers, and then finally the wastrel was able to pop him to get rid of that. So now he's down 2 of his Oxfordian mages. The one that's handing out regen was the first one to go, because that thing needed to die before it could buff his crew. I can't remember what that one did, but it wasn't important. And the only other thing is that Joss just started moving up towards the center there. But unfortunately, he is within 6 inches of the center line, so he will not count for interference. So that is the end of turn 2. And so I score 1 for interference and 1 for hunting party. And he does manage to score for interference, though, as he moved that 1 spider to the left there, and there's another Oxfordian mage hanging out by that yellow building up at the top of the picture, who's also in that second table quarter. So going into turn 3, and I just had a stunning start to this turn, and it was all thanks to Misaki. So at the end of the last turn, actually, she removed her stock from Joss and put it onto the captain. And the captain had moved over to the Ramos and the Essence of Power because he didn't want me shooting at his Essence of Power anymore, which is totally fine by me. If you want to use your 9 or whatever 10 stone enforcer to block your totem, I don't care. So with the stock being on the captain, I'm able to charge Misaki at the captain, ignoring all the intervening terrain and models and that, thanks to her diving charge. With my first attack, I use the Thunder and get off, I can't remember, moderate or severe, but enough to put the hurting on the captain and then do some damage to Ramos, but importantly, kill the primordial, or the Essence of Power, as it had already been wounded from a sniper shot. Then with my second attack, I use my Bicento attack to hit the captain, and I'm able to kill him. And then I declare my next target trigger to push 4 inches away, which puts me in range of the Oxfordian mage, which was next to the yellow building. So then with my 0 action, I put Stalk on him, and then I hit him with a Bicento, and I'm able to do severe damage to kill him, and then declare my next target trigger again to push Misaki away from any kind of Joss retribution or anything like that, and to secure that top left table quarter for myself. So that was just an absolutely stunning turn by Misaki. I mean, I blew through most of my hand and a ton of stones to get where I am, but being able to take out 3 models is pretty okay with me. For the rest of that turn, he moves Ramos up a little bit and summons 2 more spiders off of a scrap marker that was left over from the previous turn. They will drop, or the one that was already existing will drop a ski marker. They run around a little bit and eventually amalgamate into a swarm and head over as to where you can see them there. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any of them before they became a swarm with my samurai, so I won't be able to score hunting party this turn. Joss runs over to behind the little woodshed there and drops a ski marker. So at this point, I'm pretty confident that he is getting, or he is at least going for convict labor. Not much else of interest happens in that turn on his side of things. For me, I just move Shang around so that he can get within range of Misaki in case she takes a couple hits. He can heal her up. I cast Remember the Mission on my Wastrel with the Shadow Effigy, and she just walks up and plants a ski marker right next to the Arachnid Swarm in preparation for detonate the charges. Other than that, the snipers are just plinking away at stuff. Nothing of note. So at the end of turn 3, I'll score 1 more point for interference, and he will score none because he does not. He only has the 1 table quarter. So going into turn 4, I activate Misaki, who runs in at that Arachnid Swarm in the hopes of saving the valiant Wastrel, who was dropping my ski markers. She manages to actually kill the swarm pretty easily, but then she's kind of stuck where she is, and I did a bit of a misplay here. I should have, I forgot to declare my next target trigger to push away from Ramos and then drop a ski marker. But she ended up where she is. Then Ramos went ahead and moved down to where you can see him and ended up summoning 3 steam arachnids, which all came out surrounding Misaki, just throwing her defense into the tank. Joss came back from behind the woodshed, charged the Wastrel, killed her fairly handily. And that's pretty much the turn. For the rest of the turn, I just threw all of my shooting into the Misaki swarm combat, because Misaki's bulletproof 1 and I've got misdirection, so I'm just throwing down low masks, throwing them off, just trying to do anything to kill one of these spiders before it turns into another swarm again. I'm not even too concerned, like, I mean, you know, the best play would be able to kill it with a samurai, but I'm not even that concerned with killing it with a samurai anymore. I just don't want them to turn into a swarm. Swarms are hard to put down. So there's just a close-up of that. And in fairness to Misaki, she's taking a lot of attacks are coming her way, but with I used the last of my stones and I sandbag a couple masks that I'm just throwing them off onto other spiders, and his hand goes down really quickly, but yeah, he manages to balance it out where I don't actually kill any of them. So how that turn ended up going was that he did in fact turn them into a swarm, and they moved up onto the gallows like you can see here to drop another ski marker. So he will score for convict labor this turn because I can't get anything close enough to stop it. My Shadow Effigy ran up to where he is, where you can see him there, dropped a ski marker, and then the previous ski marker that was near Joss and the Steam Arachnid was close enough that I was able to score 3 points for detonate the charges. So that'll put me up, and then again I will score for interference this turn. So I'll get 4 points, putting me up to 7, and he will get only 1 from Convict Labor. He's just too close to the center to score for interference. And at that point, he decides to call the game. He figures that I've figured out that he has detonate the charges, so I am staying far enough away from those markers that I'll try and block 1 so he can't get Convict Labor, but if he decides to detonate the charge, he'll only get 1 point for it. And he figures that I'm only going to score more points for interference, and if he tries summoning any more Steam Arachnids, then I'll just kill them for hunting party points. So that's the game. It's a victory for the 10 Thunders. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and you can follow me on all of the details there. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.